If I want to take a photograph of an object very close to the camera, and especially if it has different layers of depth, I like to use manual focus. My camera is set up with manual focus, telling me here on my camera I have to turn that on the lens. If I turn that, it'll tell me what kind of focus it's using. In this case it's manual focus. I'm using one of the automatic modes, aperture values, so that as I change my f-stop, it will automatically change the shutter speed, and I already have it set at 1.2 overexposure. We're using exposure compensation. That is because my still life has a lot of white in it, and if I don't do that, it will appear dark. As I change the f-stop on the camera, it will not show me where the focus is. I'll have to take a picture and evaluate it on the screen. But what this will help me do is by turning this knob, or by adjusting this knob, I can instruct the area that I want to see enlarged. And if this is not in focus, I can adjust it, but I'm using my knob. I'm not using the camera's autofocus. In this camera, I have an option to even come a little bit closer, and then I cycle back down. But what you see is this is in focus, and as all depth of field, it always shows a little bit in front, and then as it goes back, it loses its depth of field, or loses the focus. Since I am using aperture value or aperture priority, if I change my f-stop right now at f3.2, it's a 30th of a second. But if I change that to, say, f22, it now tells me that I'm going to need 1.6 of a second. So if I want to, and you'll see here, focused in the front, going to f22, the screen is not going to indicate, at least on my camera, the screen is not going to show me what the depth of field changes will be because of my f-stop changes. I'll have to take a picture, which is easy enough. Now, at an exposure that's more than a second, I'm going to use this cable release, because as I hold a camera, there's a chance and a high probability that I'm going to shake it. So I'm going to take my hand off of it. I'm going to let it stop moving, and and you can see now that from here, a little farther back is now in focus. However, since depth of field moves closer to the camera and goes away, I don't need to focus on this one. I don't need to focus on this one if I want that one in focus. What I can do is move my focus to this one. Now, what will happen is that the optics at f22 are going to make what's closer in focus and what's farther in focus. So I'm going to remove this. I'm going to go back to my cable release. Now we should be able to see in the picture, this is no longer the screen showing us what the camera sees. This is the screen showing us a picture. I focused on here, and the focus is moved this way and moved that way, and we have from about 6 to about 11 and a half in focus, and then it starts to get soft.